not didn't kick off the weekend, but really made a lot of people in a lot of different places smile, and that was, of course, Manchester United. Now they fell to Brentford 4 goals to nil, which is just the funniest thing to have potentially ever happened in the Premier League. And once again, I remain very, very neutral in my discussion of them, but it's just bizarre, utterly bizarre, how a team with the quality in places can perform like a bunch of 12-year-olds and act like a bunch of 12-year-olds. Ten Hag, we all know how much I rave about Eric Ten Hag. That's no real surprise, but I feel like he got it. I mean, yeah. So I feel like it's a good segue. Let's just start with the game before I touch on everything else. I feel like speak on the game first, and then we'll speak on the aftermath. I think Eric Ten Hag got it wrong at selection. Why you're playing Christian Eriksen as a defensive midfielder is beyond me. I just don't get it. So you've signed Eriksen and you've played him in two different positions in the opening 2 games of the Premier League season. I don't get that. Why Luke Shaw is starting over Malacia, God knows. How Harry Maguire is still starting, and how Harry Maguire didn't get subbed off at halftime is beyond me. I thought attacking wise, Bruno needs a spell. I reckon. I just don't think he's mentally checked into the season yet. I feel like not a lot of players have checked into the season mentally yet. Delo, a right back, I think he's a better option than Wan-Bissaka. So yeah, and then David De Gea, who, I'm not going to come here and say, I knew, like, how obvious is it that De Gea is not good enough, and me saying that, I've been raving about how De Gea is not good enough for ages, because I haven't, right? I haven't really paid A, that much attention, and B, didn't really think that De Gea is that bad of a goalkeeper. I think shot-stopping wise, history dictates that shot-stopping wise, he's one of the best in Europe. Playing out from the back, he leaves a lot to be desired. And then, like, commanding of area and sweeper keeping, stuff like that, he's not great either. But I think as a pure shot stopper, there's worse out there, especially in the Premier League. So I didn't think anything of it in terms of it. I don't think his future is questioned at this stage, because I feel like there's a lot bigger issues for United than a goalkeeper, as I yawn again. So yeah, but obviously the first goal, that's not even bad luck. That's just poor technique. I think you ask any goalkeeper at any level, that's just poor technique. It's not bad luck. It's not unlucky. It's just poor. It's just poor goalkeeping. So that obviously came from the first goal from Brian and Buemo, I think it was. Oh no, Josh Da Silva, my bad. Josh Da Silva with the opening goal. The second goal, like, why are you passing to Christian Eriksen in that position? Like, why is that? Why is that even an option that you're considering? Like, it's not even a pass that should be made. You don't meant to play that as under any circumstance. Like, you can see that he's under pressure. You can see that Eriksen's right in front of you. Behind him is Jensen, I think it was, who ended up scoring. Why pass the ball to him? You had Harry Maguire on your right, just free, or Martinez on your right, just free. He can pass the ball there, or God forbid, just kick the ball long. Like, you don't have to pass it out from the back every single time. Just kick the ball long if there's nothing on. There's no harm in that, right? You got Ronaldo up there. He might be able to win a header. Like, anyway, obviously he passes to Eriksen, who turns it over because someone's up his ass. Like, I'm not sure that's Eriksen's fault. The only thing Eriksen could have done is kicked it out for a corner. Like, so anyway, yeah, the ball gets turned over. They score. The third goal came from, was the third goal the Ben Mee, was it? The corner? Yeah. But like a corner goal, I mean, you can't really put a lot of blame on a lot of people for that, but I thought De Gea could have done better there. Defensively, just a shambles, just no one really just commanding any area. And then the fourth goal, can't even remember the fourth goal, to be honest. I think it was like a pass across goal, like a low cross, I think. Yeah. The outmuscles Luke Shaw. Brian Mbuemo, as FOTMob has quite articulately described to me. 4-0, game over. Brentford kind of put the foot off the pedal and just kind of relaxed. Could have scored 6, probably should have scored 6, but I'm not really sure they care. It's just something that I just don't understand what's going on. I don't get it. Because if we bring up the average positions right here from Erik Ten Hag, now, a couple of things to note while I touch on these average positions is I don't hate it. I've seen worse systems, and can I just bear in mind the reason I use average positions and the reason why I use heat maps and like FBref scouting reports is because it's a good way to just summarize a lot of things, right? If I wanted to, I could break down phases of play for United in defense, like offensive third, midfield third, and defensive third. And I could really dissect heat map game by game, but we'd be here for 4 hours, right? And although I would quite like to speak about this for 4 hours because I find it fascinating, it's probably not good viewing, right? So the reason I use average positions and the reason why I use heat maps and FBref scouting reports is because it's just a good summary of what occurred. I feel like they're quite reliable in terms of that. As long as you watch the game, you could like add your insights there. But that's the reason why I use them, right? So I'm not saying this is the be all and end all. I just think it's a good summary of what happened and what occurred, and it's a good way to succinctly tell a story. Now, these average positions here show a quite clear system, right? It's a 2-4-4, quite obviously. And what I spoke last week about Rashford and Sancho being those inside forwards, I liked, and you could see here a little bit Rashford more so than Sancho. Rashford being that like half space attacker, being that inside forward, getting in behind the defense. I like. There's something that Erik Ten Hag did at Ajax quite well last season, with obviously Haller dropping deep. You had Antony on one side, Tadic as well dropping in, and then you had the left winger pushing on, being that like advanced kind of outside striker. I like that. I really do. I think the positioning of the fullbacks generally is quite good. I feel like they're not overcommitting at stages, but they also provide a lot in terms of like an offensive just place to be. I think Luke Shaw's not good enough. I think they have to commit with Malacia. I feel like he's just better technically than Luke Shaw, and he's more adaptable than Luke Shaw. I think Deleu played fine. I don't think Deleu needs to be replaced by any means. I feel like Deleu's capable of being serviceable for this first season anyway. I thought he was not the worst of the defenders by any means. And then obviously the double pivot, they dropped McTominay. I said last week that if you just replace one of McTominay or Fred, it'd be a different team. I didn't mean that with Christian Eriksen. Can we just clarify that? I didn't mean that you should play Christian Eriksen as a defensive midfielder, but I digress. They played Eriksen, like this is where I have to put blame on Ten Hag. Why are you doing that? Like, for what reason are you playing Eriksen as a defensive midfielder? He's never played in that position in his life. He's not a defensive midfielder. At worst, he's a box-to-box midfielder. At absolute worst, not in a double pivot, not a single pivot, nothing defensively for Christian Eriksen. Doesn't have the physique, doesn't have the build, doesn't have the nuance of playing a defensive midfielder role. Not good. Just don't do it. Like, you're actually better off playing McTominay there. I'm being genuine. Because at least McTominay is 6'3" or 6'4". Like, Eriksen's not a presence at all. So at least what you get with McTominay, despite him being a dreadful footballer and a shocking technical footballer, at least he's 6'4". So at least he can win some headers, throw his weight around, get a yellow card, etc. Right? Eriksen won't give you that. That's probably one of the areas I have to put the blame on Ten Hag. He instructed his team to not play out of the back in this game, which is exactly how you need to play against Brentford, because Brentford are similar to Chelsea to an extent where they like to stretch the pitch, so there's a lot of space. Like, there's a lot of... They keep their depth quite well, Brentford keep their depth out of possession quite well. They press really high and the defence sits quite deep. That's obviously to prevent long balls. I mean, balls over the top, and like being able to be if you're passed through that first layer of the press, you have the other layer of press to like kind of mitigate the damage in a sense. What the way to beat Brentford is to be more direct. I think that's obvious. And I think Ten Hag said in a post-match interview, I told my team to go long and to go to the space that's there because of how much they keep their depth. There's only so much space 11 players can cover over a full pitch or over 3/4 of a pitch. So there's going to be space in behind or in between in the gaps. He told his team to exploit those gaps and they just didn't listen. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he's kind of putting blame on his players, but if that is the case, you can't put any blame on Ten Hag for doing that because he had the right idea. His players are just incompetent enough to not do it. Like, whether it's just being cocky or arrogant or precious, I don't know what it is, but I feel like it was summarized perfectly in that De Gea goal. Like, why are you doing that? Like, that pass is potentially one of the dumbest passes I've ever seen in my life. It just kick the ball long, man. It's like people like, and I know a lot of managers are like, we want to play out from the back at every opportunity. You speak to Pep Guardiola, you speak to Thomas Tuchel, you speak to Steven Gerrard, you speak to Nagelsmann, you speak to Zidane, you speak to Benitez, you speak to Ancelotti, you say, all right, yeah, if I want my team to pass out from the back, but there's no option for passing out of the back, like there's no player free, yeah, kick the ball long. Don't risk turning the ball over. Like, it's not rocket science. Don't think you're smarter than what you are. Which is the frustrating thing because it's such avoidable mistakes, yet they keep happening time and time again. And I think De Gea cost them the 3 points. I don't think that's debatable because the first goal comes and the second goal comes purely because of his errors. And if the first goal doesn't come, the second goal doesn't come, and etc. etc. So I'm not saying it's De Gea's fault, although it is. But there's a lot, like, if you want to put the blame on one person for this game, yeah, blame De Gea. But I don't think it's right to blame any one person on this team because you're against Brentford and you're not even creating a chance, like a half decent chance. It's quite staggering, to be honest, and it's quite just appalling. It's weird because you look at that front line, Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno in behind. Okay, that's probably talent for talent. That's minimum top 6 of the Premier League, right? That's it's probably 6th, but it's top 6 in the Premier League, and by virtue of it being top 6 in the Premier League, it's probably top 15 in Europe in terms of talent for talent. That tops that front 4, right? How does that front 4 not even create one? I can't remember one gilt-edged chance, and that's not tactically. That's giving a shit because we saw it, and I think it's best kind of it's best shown or it's best depicted with Real Madrid. The reason I say that is because Real Madrid don't really have a style of play. They don't really have a proper style of play that is systematically based. It is really Vinicius and Benzema kind of doing the brunt work for a midfield 4 that's Valverde, Kroos, Modric, Casemiro, right? Obviously, I know with Camavinga and Tchouaméni it'll change. But Vinicius and Benzema have quite clearly developed a pattern of play that they can go to if things aren't happening, where they will know that they can create chances, because that's what good quality players do, and that's what good quality players that actually care for each other and actually care to win do. You don't just rely on the manager's tactics. You have to, with your strike partner, with your wingers, with your fullbacks, you have to say, okay, if these tactics aren't working, this is what I want you to do. I want you to put this cross from this area into this position and I'm going to be there. Or I want you to play this pass, I'm going to make this run, you play it to me, make this run, I'll play it back to you. Just to create something. Because that's what good players do. That's why you're seeing the likes of... That's why you saw the likes of Chelsea last year struggle, because there wasn't really that connection between the front line. In terms of... There's not like a real... Alright, the tactics aren't working, this is what we're going to do to win. With Liverpool, the exact opposite. How many times did last season and even the season before Liverpool were playing like dog shit, and then all of a sudden Mane to Salah, Salah to Diaz goal, Diaz to Mane, Mane to Salah goal, just because they have that intrinsic knowledge with each other that, okay, if the tactics aren't working, I know where Salah will be. I just need to get the ball to him. He knows where Diaz will be, and get the ball to him. He'll score, because we have that contingency plan of, if the tactics aren't working, we're going to go to this. United's front four doesn't have that. They don't even have a glimmer of that. They don't, despite having the individual quality, they don't have, like, they have the individual quality, but they don't have the individual quality. It's quite weird the way that United's front four is kind of built, because Ronaldo can turn a game on its head. Sancho can rip any defender in the world apart if he wanted to. Rashford on his day is borderline unplayable, and we saw Bruno how good he can be in the back end of not last season, the season before, and even last season he was good. I just don't understand how they haven't been able to score. Who they versed in the opening day? How don't I remember? They versed Brighton. And they lost. And they scored a goal, right? But it was an own goal. So they really haven't scored a goal. How did I forget that? I don't know. I literally talked about it last week. They played 2 games, conceded 6, scored none. Let's be honest, right? Yeah, all right. Scored 1, or scored half a goal. They are compromised. How that has happened is quite concerning, and the fact that they're versing Liverpool next week is quite concerning as well. This could end badly. This game could go either one of 2 ways, and I might as well just give my quick preview of it now, but I can see either Liverpool winning 6-0 or United scraping a 2-1. It's going to end either of those 2 ways. Liverpool won't win this game 2-0. It won't be like a score in the 36th minute and score in the 65th minute. It'll be a 6-0 or United win just because of the emotion and Old Trafford. I'm assuming it's at Old Trafford, just based on where both sides played this week. But, like you know what I mean when I say that. Like, it's going to be that emotion-charged game that I can see United pipping, but it'll just be papering over the cracks. It won't be the start of something, and it won't be it won't show that they've improved. I think this is the point I was going to make just before. This United side was massively papered over the cracks by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Massively. The reason I say this is they finished second under Solskjaer, under Ole. Season after he got sacked in January. Now, the reason why, and I've spoken about this quite a bit, go back to the early episodes of last year to hear me speak about this. And the season they finished second. Yes, it was because obviously Liverpool were poor, Chelsea sacked their manager, etc. But the reason why the change from second to sacked in 6 months is because Ole in that season, and even in the season, even in the time before that season, what he had set up for that team was counter-attack. It was numbers behind the ball, Rashford, Martial, Dan James, these guys, counter-attack. Bruno, counter-attack. Individual brilliance from Bruno, counter-attack. So when you take away that system, we saw Harry Maguire was so good at Leicester, and was so good at and is good at England level, is because both teams play pragmatic styles of football. They play pragmatic styles of football that's quite reactive and quite dependent on what the other team plays. How many times in that season with Ole, where they finished second, did we say, oh my God, how did United win that game? The other team dominated. Is because Ole's way of playing was let's sit back, hit teams on the counter, and because they have unbelievable players, that are so dynamic up front, they can do that. That's why Harry Maguire was kind of hidden in a sense for that season when they finished second, was because it was him and Lindelof or Bailly playing as kind of like on their box, on their 18-yard box. That's what he played. That's what he did against with Leicester. That's why Luke Shaw was so good that season as well. Is because they were. My camera keeps going in and out of focus. So they were playing on their 18-yard box, so there was less room for error. Because all we needed to do was just head the ball away, clear the ball, long ball, clear the ball, long ball. It's hard to stuff that up. The worst thing that happened to Manchester United was two things. Believing that they were better than what they were, and signing Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane. If after they finish second, I think that season when they finished second massively papered over the cracks for how poor that squad was. Because it's not a good team. Like, technically, it's not a good team. And they finished second because of that reason I just said, for the counter-attacks and the pragmatic way of playing football. They signed Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane, and all of a sudden the expectation is, okay, you're going to have to dominate games now. You're going to have to be on the front foot, have 65% possession, win games 3-0, dominate teams, pass them off the park. That's not Ole's way of playing football. He does not know how to do that. You saw it. Here's another perfect example. Newcastle United finished 5th. The reason they finished 5th was because Alan Pardew at the time, I'm 95% sure it was Alan Pardew, good man manager, understands the counter-attack system. So when teams, obviously it's plucky Newcastle, so teams would go at them thinking we're going to go over to St. James and steamroll them. They get hit on the counter with Ben Arfa, with Cisse, with Barr, with all these players. And then the next season after they finish 5th, down the shitter they go. Because everyone's now, okay, you finish 5th, now it's time to start dominating teams. Same thing that happened to United. And Ole's way of playing football was so different to controlling games that it kind of set... Oh, my bad, as I knocked my microphone. It kind of set the club back around about 5 years. Maybe 10 years. Because now the expectation is you finish second under a shit manager. Why can't you do it under one of the best coaches in the world? And it comes down to... Look at the way they were playing in that season under Ole where they finished second. It was shit football, but it was effective. Now the expectation of Man United is we have Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane. Got to dominate games. Got to have 65% possession. Where this team with McTominay, with Harry Maguire, with Luke Shaw, with Fred, with Rashford, it's not suited to that way of playing football. They need a whole redevelopment and institutionalized way of thinking. They need a fundamental reset from youth level to the first team level to board level. They need a fundamental reset. And to be honest, I could genuinely see it coming at the expense of Erik Ten Hag, which I God hope it doesn't happen because Ten Hag is the man in my opinion. He doesn't have the resources. But the thing is with football is that there's always next year. And I know a lot of fans will hate that rhetoric, but it's like this isn't the be all and end all. If you don't win the league this season, relax. There's a season next year, there's a season after that, there's a season after that, and guess what? There's a season after that. So why not take one step back to go 2 steps forwards? Why not? Absolutely, fair play to them. They've already gutted the squad out. Lingard, God, Mata, Matic, Henderson, Pogba, these guys flushed out. Good start. But the recruitment has been diabolical, appalling recruitment over the past half a decade. So what players could you say have been deemed a success for United that have been signed in the past 5 years? Bruno, okay. Sancho, jury's still out. Maguire, no. Shaw, I mean, it was more than 5 years ago. Fred, no. Martial, no. The recruitment's been horrendous. That's another facet of that club that just needs utter, like a... Where does this end? I can say they need a reset all I want, but where does it end? I'm confused. And United fans, if you have more of an idea, let me know in the comments on YouTube or tweet me. But I just don't know where this club goes from here, because I don't know. Maybe I overestimated or overrated Erik ten Hag. Maybe he's not someone that can come in and change the fortunes of the club. I think he is. At this stage, I do think that he has that ability to do that. So I guess the jury's still out on him. And it's about improving players. I think Fred and McTominay are a midfield double pivot that don't work, and we've seen it not working countless times. But there's bases of players there. McTominay is tall and he has a physical presence. So just fix up the technical aspect a little bit and you'll be fine. Fred, he runs around a lot. He's very energetic, that boy. So if you just fix up the technical aspect of his game, it could be okay. I just don't understand. I'm kind of lost for words as to where this team is going to go. I have no real prediction. This is probably one of the worst losses they've had in a long, long time. I think it's worse than the 4-1 last year against Watford, worse than the 5-0 against Liverpool, because this is against a team that hasn't been in the Premier League ever. Is that what happened last year? They have never been in the top flight of... Maybe they've been in the top flight, they have never been in the Premier League. Second season in the Premier League and they get smacked up 4-0 by a team that is better run, by a better run club. Fact. There's probably about 16 better clubs in the league that are better run than Manchester United. Maybe even 17, potentially even 18 clubs that are better run than Manchester United. And people were saying, "Oh, you still make the top 4 and all this stuff," but where they go from here, it's almost as if you can make a movie. It's almost as if you can make a movie based on United and their trajectory, because it's almost like a Hollywood. It's almost like the 3-act structure, right? And for those who did media, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we're at the depths now. We're at the depths. We're at the conflict stage. We need a resolution. But the thing is, I feel like it's just... This is what United are doing. They've started Act 1. They've finished Act 1. They've gone to Act 3, realised, oh shit, this is rubbish, and have gone back to Act 1 and just keep doing Act 1 over and over and over and over and over again. There's no kind of, in terms of a rebuild, they just keep doing the same. It's almost as if they're starting the rebuild every year. That's almost what it's like. They get rid of these players. They bring in these players. They're shit. They get rid of them. They bring in more players who are shit. They get rid of them. They're bringing more players. Bring in this coach. This coach is shit. Get rid of him. Bring in this executive. He's shit. Get rid of him. Sell the club. Any bet the new owners will be shit somehow. Get rid of them. Fucking just... We're doing the same thing. Groundhog Day every single day for Manchester United. It's quite bizarre. And the Chelsea supporter in me wants this to continue, but the football supporter in me wants United to be as good as they can be, because as much as I hate to say it, a good United, it's good for the league, it's good for football. You want the most prestigious clubs to do well. I love the elite as well. I love the elite in sport. That's why Manchester City have kind of frustrated me with their success, because I don't think they're the elite. Of course they're elite, but you know what I mean when I mean the elite. Like Liverpool and Arsenal and United are the elite. Like AC Milan are the elite. I hope you understand what I mean when I say that. Anyway, I think that's enough speaking about United, because fuck me dead. Is that going to be a clip? I don't know. Is that going to be a TikTok? God knows. But We'll see. We'll see, because we'll probably come back this time in a month, not even a month, this time next week, and Liverpool would have put 9 past United, and Ten Hag would have been sacked, and there'd be riots. But who knows? Who knows? We'll only have to wait and see. But let's move on.